Good evening, everybody. We left off on page 265. Connor was trapped. He could hear Kiri talking to him, but he couldn't speak. He couldn't open his eyes. He could do nothing but listen. He was forever grateful for Kiri's presence, though. It kept him grounded. Every time she left, or stopped talking for a while, his mind would drift, and he would remember things. Things he had worked very hard to forget, but never could. Scene change. He was on the carpeted floor, feeling the grime of the dirty carpeting itch his fingers. He clutched it as if letting go would spell certain death. He could smell the beer. It was filling the air as his father moved toward him. "Get up!" Connor didn't want to get up. He already felt sick to his stomach, and he didn't want to be hit again. But that didn't mean his father couldn't kick him. And he did, repeatedly. The 9-year-old coughed, the breath kicked out of him, and attempted to rise as his father had ordered. He fell promptly back onto the carpeting. "Stop it! Stop!" he heard his mother scream. "Get the hell out of here!" "You can't tell me what to do, bitch!" his father slurred, and Connor looked away as he hit her. Scene change. The memory dissipated as he heard Kiri's voice again. Why did he keep remembering? He wasn't back there. He and his mother had long since escaped. He had long since worked past the pain and embarrassment that came from those days. The silence was longer this time. She had stopped speaking a long time ago. She left and came back, and that seemed like an eternity. She left again for another eternity, but then came back, and now she was silent. But he felt something different. He felt her holding his hand. Her grip was loose, like she might be asleep. That must be why she was silent. "Wake up, Kiri, please," he tried to say. Nothing happened. He still couldn't open his eyes. He couldn't speak. And he was starting to feel something else. Pain. He remembered this sort of pain. He was well accustomed to it from his early childhood, but this was something more immediate. A hazy pain just below the surface of a numbness that frightened him. He couldn't move. He felt a pressure on his chest. His limbs felt weighted, and his head felt like it was strapped down. He remembered recent, excruciating pain, but didn't know when exactly that was. His concept of time was completely skewed. "Kiri," he tried to say again. Again, nothing. The pain that existed eased, and he felt the strange, cushiony numbness grow. Morphine? He thought that might be it. He must be in a hospital then, not at home. Everything was so confusing. He tried yet again to open his eyes. This time, they opened. But it was in slow motion, and they closed right away, exhausted from the effort. He tried to take a breath, but couldn't. His chest constricted and heaved violently as he tried to breathe on his own, despite the ventilator pumping air automatically into his lungs. "Don't fight it," he thought. "You don't have the strength to fight it." But he couldn't help it. He tried to sync his breathing with the ventilator, but with the pain in his chest throwing off his natural breathing, he couldn't coordinate the two. Kiri's head was to one side on her shoulder as she propped herself up in the chair with her elbow. Her other hand was limp near his on the bed. At the sound of his struggling, she stirred and lifted her head with a groan as she rubbed her neck and rotated her shoulder. Then she saw him. She smiled. "Hey there, calm down," she said softly, smiling as she squeezed his hand. "Welcome back. You're okay. You're going to be okay." She pressed the call button on his remote and told him, "A doctor will be in and we can get that tube out and I can hear your handsome voice." He wanted to smile back, but his face was contorted in pain. It was so good to see her. She was the most beautiful sight in the world, but he couldn't focus on her face. "Mom and Dad should be here today," she tried to distract him from the ventilator. "They'll be so happy to see you're awake," she said, and couldn't stop smiling. He didn't seem to register everything she said. His eyes drifted for a moment, but went right back to her. She was ecstatic that he was awake, though. There was a sort of sympathy in her eyes, and a sort of fear, too. She was scared. She squeezed his hand again and closed her eyes, attempting not to cry out of relief. She now understood what he must have gone through 12 years ago when she was stabbed. Dr. Morton entered the room at that moment and walked over to Connor with a smile. "Hi, I'm Dr. Morton," he greeted, looking at the vitals on screen and then back at his patient. "You look pretty uncomfortable there. We put a tube in your throat to help you breathe. but we should be able to take it out since you're trying to breathe spontaneously. When I tell you to, I want you to take a deep breath and then blow out as hard as you can, okay?" Connor managed a nod. The doctor came around to the other side of the bed and reset the ventilator. He prepared to extubate, placing a few instruments nearby and untaping the plastic holder for the ventilator tube that was resting on Connor's cheeks. Then he said, "Ready? Deep breath." Connor tried to take a deep breath, but only succeeded in making his chest heave. He tried again, his eyes shut in agony. Dr. Morton unhooked the ventilator and turned the machine off. "Okay, blow out." Laboriously, Connor blew out. The tube slid out and he coughed and gagged violently. Kiri held his hand the entire time. "There you go," she said softly. "You did quite well." She smiled. He began to vomit, and Dr. Morton applied suction and placed an oxygen mask over his face. Then he brought a small cup of ice chips over to Connor. "Don't try to speak yet. Let this dissolve. Your throat's going to be sore for the next few days." He lifted the mask and placed the chip in his patient's mouth. Kiri saw from her husband's expression that he was clearly in pain. Dr. Morton placed the cup on the nightstand and said, "Mr. O'Malley, now that you're awake, I need to do a few simple tests, if that's all right with you." Connor tried to speak, but all that came out was a croak. He nodded his head. The doctor began rubbing the blunt end of a reflex hammer against Connor's hands and feet, looking for a reaction. He had Connor squeeze his hands and press his feet against his hands. He tested his patient's reflexes in all limbs except the leg with the gunshot wound. For that leg, he ran a scanner over it. "Can you open your eyes for me and look right here?" Dr. Morton asked, and shined a pen light near Connor's head. He moved one finger around and looked for eye tracking. "Good job. How's the breathing? Any pain when you take a breath?" Connor nodded slightly, but didn't open his eyes for longer than a few seconds at a time. "Okay, if you feel like the morphine isn't doing its job, you can press this button here." He placed the control in Connor's hand and placed his thumb over the button. Connor immediately pressed it. "We'll let you sleep for a little bit, and then a nurse will be back in to check on you." Connor didn't respond this time. Kiri looked at the doctor, and he motioned toward the door. Once they were outside, he said, "His reflexes are good, his breathing is about as strong as you can expect given the surgery on his lung and ribs, and he's responding to our questions, without delay, which suggests minimal brain damage. He had a moderate traumatic brain injury, though, and we can see some residual effects on his visual focus. His eyes are drifting, which suggests dizziness, although that could also be from the pain medication. We'll have to do a more extensive screening when he's been awake for a little longer." "How long do you think it'll be before he wakes up again?" Kiri asked. "The anesthetic we gave him is still in his system. We kept him under for so long partially for his own protection. We wanted to protect his brain and allow his body to rest and recover. He's going to be groggy for a while, but within the next few days he'll start making sense again, and he'll stay awake longer than a few hours at a time." Kiri nodded. She folded her arms across her chest as if it was cold. "In the meantime, you're welcome to stay and continue to talk to him. It'll help his brain recover, and it'll help his morale, which always makes for faster healing." "I'll be happy to." "I'll be back when he wakes up to do a cognitive assessment," Dr. Morton said, and gave her a slight smile. "Do you have any questions before I go?" Kiri had more questions than she could count, but none of them were urgent, so she shook her head. "If you have any questions, just have the nurse page me, and I'll swing by and do what I can to clear up any confusion." "Thank you, doctor," Kiri said, and he gave her a gracious nod as he walked away. "We'll read more tomorrow."